I got this entire bodybuilding gym to myself, and if I have to record something, nobody's gonna care because it's 3 in the morning. Except for this gigantic picture of The Rock which says, always be the hardest worker in the room. Not very hard to do when you're the only one in the room. Because it's about drive, it's about the lying leg curl, because that's gonna be our first exercise today. Here we go, nice and smashy, schmancy. So somebody put it on a very generous weight of 60 kilos, and I was like, oh wow, maybe I'll give this a shot, but I forgot. This is basically my warm-up set, and I'm warming up with 60 kilos, which is like half the stack. So I was kind of like thinking about that scene that All Might was saying,
I'll have to go beyond that and force you to surrender!
and sometimes it works, but today we wanted to actually just gain control over the weight as opposed to the weight controlling me because of momentum music. Another reason why I like training at this particular time is I'm not waiting for anyone. I don't have to like, do some random other sets of other exercises. Like I literally can just pick whatever machine I want to use and then use it. I don't have to wait in the line. I don't have to like talk to people. And especially if you're trying to get as much of your exercises in before work, because I work full time.
You wake up when the alarm goes off.
Whereas if I go after work, because I work at 9 to 5, like after work is so packed, it's just full of people like socializing and standing around and hogging all the machines, not actually using them. Whereas in bodybuilding gyms like this one, people tend to just get their sets in and leave. Another thing I love about this gym is that they have 2 dumbbell racks and they go up to about 70 kilos, which is like what, 140, 50 pounds? I don't know, something like that.
Nice.
So we're going to be using the 50 kilo dumbbells or the 110 pound dumbbells because we're going to be doing some RDLs. It's important to warm up, so that's why we do these little swings or active warm ups as well. Not just straight stretching, because if you stretch, you can actually like pull some. So you got to do those active stretches. So we're doing 2 sets, and with the second set, we're going to do clusters. It's actually going to have 5 reps of 4, totaling to 20 reps in total. But the first set will only have 10 reps around there. So 30 for both of these 2 sets. Now this targets the hamstrings, and all the exercises we've done thus far has only been hamstring focused, which is that part behind your leg. So I've been experimenting with some weight that's a little bit heavier than usual because my coach basically said that I've been training like not intense enough, or in other words, like a little. And that's the tricky part. Like when you try to push yourself and go with a heavier weight, your form sometimes gives out and you need to practice to build up to that weight. So
Just trying to say, perfectly executed reps shouldn't necessarily be your number one concern, right? That should really be thrashing whatever muscle you're trying to target.
that's probably the case for these lifts as well. I could probably be going a little bit lighter to make sure I get full control of that movement and stop taking little breaks like this. Now speaking about controlling weight, or controlling gravity for this matter, Blackbeard was stated to be universal according to a couple of new power scalers that I've seen. And the argument here is that in this panel it says that my dark gravity compresses objects with infinite power. Therefore, if universal tier is anyone that has an infinite amount of energy, this statement would basically prove that, like, Blackbeard is universal. While we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and debunk universal Blackbeard. Basically, the feats are greater than statements. So author statements don't mean squat. Get it? Now that's why we're going to do hack squats now. Anyways, because half the time authors exaggerate about their characters because they're trying to make the show more exciting. For example, if I said Blackbeard had infinite power, you'd be like, whoa, he's super strong. He has like a really powerful, he has a really powerful devil fruit, and he's going to be super scary, and we don't know how powerful he really is because his power is infinite. Now, if I introduced him as Blackbeard, a guy who's fat with a beard, and he barely destroyed an island, you'd say, I'm a hater of One Piece, when that's actually what Blackbeard has proven to do. So it's kind of like in real law cases, you can't just take people's words as truth. You need evidence to prove their words. Otherwise, it's hearsay evidence, which is not admissible in court. The same is true for Blackbeard. If you want to say he's universal, you need to prove he's universal. Now, there's a difference between glazing or exaggerated statements and an actual feat. For example, if there was a panel that said Blackbeard destroyed the universe with his punch, that's a feat. Whereas glazing is like Whitebeard has the power to destroy the world. That's just some top tier glazing. There's no proof of that either. Whitebeard couldn't even destroy Marineford, a country level size object. Now, he did affect places all over the world simultaneously, so let's be kind and generous. Let's call it multi-continental. The fact of the matter is we've never actually seen him destroy an entire planet. People just believe he could. So we have no evidence to prove Whitebeard has destroyed a planet. So in power scaling, he hasn't been proven planetary. And there's a really easy way that we can prove that this is just glazing or a hyperbole or exaggerated statement. And that is, did, Blackbeard actually destroy something that is infinite in size? And if no, then it's probably just an exaggeration. Kind of like how, your parents said that in order to get to school, they had to swim through a river over a mountain, fly over a chicken just to get to school every day. How would you actually know? Like, how would you know if that's true or not? You have to go, like, literally find some footage of your father doing this or something like that. So they do this in all of fiction. They say things like, Saitama can defeat everyone with one punch, but it took him like 1,000,000 punches to defeat Boros. And then, like, they say things like, you can't defeat Itachi unless you've got the Mangekyo Sharingan. So therefore, Itachi should be able to be Goku, right? So these are all glazing statements. They're just supposed to, like, basically make that character seem really exaggeratedly powerful, but they're not actually that powerful. So that's why we apply that test to see, like, is it a true statement? Like, did they actually defeat every single person in one punch? Or in Blackbeard's case, did he summon a real black hole? Or is it just, you know, an anime fictional weaker form? Because at the moment it hasn't proven the same exact properties, because if it really was a black hole, the entire One Piece verse would have just been sucked in and everything would have been destroyed in the end of the One Piece. So both of these statements are not true. Number one, we've never seen him destroy in an infinite amount of stuff, and we've never seen a real black hole being summoned. So therefore, any rational person would come to the conclusion that basically Blackbeard is not universal, and he basically scales to the things that he's destroyed in his verse. And that is up for debate. People would argue that currently he's possibly somewhere scaling up to Whitebeard. Back to the main argument that this video brought up, the reason why they think universal Blackbeard is because it's stated that he has infinite power, therefore he fits into the universal tier. That's it, right? That's how power scaling works, right? No, because as if it's proven that this statement is a lie or an exaggeration or glazing, then unfortunately it's not a true statement, therefore it's not true that he has infinite power. So the reason I gained so much weight was because I got caught up in this whirlwind of excuses, thinking I had zero time for myself, my diet, or the gym. It was like they weren't even on my radar, because I kind of use food as a comfort thing. Like when I was stressed, I would eat. So I call this streeting basically. And at the time I was in law school, but it wasn't always this way. Like growing up, I grew up very poor. Like we'd rarely eat out, let alone go on family trips. Like that was never a thing. And it was always a race at the dinner table, because if you snooze, you lose. Like literally, like there's no dinner for you. Like everyone else has already eaten it. You know, like people, you know, always say like, oh, but isn't like bodybuilding like really hard? Like you have to give up your diet and like you gotta starve and all those kind of things. But like, that's not hard. You know what's hard is actually starving because you don't have enough money for food. And we had no food. So that was hard to me. That kind of starving, like actually being poor and not being able to afford food. Like, and this is where that motivation and drive comes from. And people are like, so how did you manage to lose 40 kilos in a year and like do so consistently while maintaining muscle mass? Well, like shedding 40 kilos and I'm heading for 60 kilos. Like, you know what's difficult is actually starving because you can't afford food. That's hard. Whereas bodybuilding, because it's planned, you've got your meal preps and you can basically succeed because you've got everything planned, everything's there, and all your food is prepped. Yeah, so the reason why I go at 3 and leave at 6 is because I normally head to like my full-time job, and people have been accusing me of being on the gear. But there's a couple of factors that they also didn't take into consideration. One, I started off very fat. And when you're like overweight and enter the gym, you're actually really, really strong. There's a lot of muscle under that fat for like a lot of different people. Like if you imagine yourself walking around with an extra 50 to 60 kilos, you would actually get kind of jacked underneath. You don't really get into bodybuilding for the money. Like, it's more like you're doing it for yourself. And in a way, it sounds like a selfish sport, but it's actually like one of the most fulfilling sports. Because when you're in the gym, it's you competing against you. And you're just trying to be a better person than you were yesterday. And that's what I love about bodybuilding, is that it's not about like you're better than another bodybuilder. It's actually just about you being better than you were yesterday. It's kind of like every day you wake up with a clean slate. Like, for example, you felt like crap yesterday because you maybe, I don't know, you weren't happy with the years of overweight habits that you had. But every day you wake up, you work really hard, and then you're like, after playing it back, I realized I did less reps, but anyways. And for me personally, I kind of feel like it's like many of you don't know, but my best friend and my brother, when I was much younger, I was 15 years old at the time, he passed away. But he was one of the most athletic, sporty people that I've ever met. He was a really, really good fighter, a kickboxer and wrestler. And I always looked up to him. He was much older than me, but he was still my best friend nonetheless, my brother. But every time I go to the gym, I feel like he's there. And he's telling me that you can do this, you can lift this weight. And I'm not just doing this for me, because I know that it's not just about me. I want to do things that make my brother proud, and I know that if he was alive today, that he would be very happy with the progress that I've made. And yeah, so anyways, I think I'm getting a bit upset, so I'm gonna stop now.